Recording in progress.
All right. I hope everybody's doing good. Chaplain Dean Alley here. Yes, I haven't shaved. Maybe letting that grow out a little bit. Not sure. Hope you're doing well. It's a Monday. It's like 3:05, something like that. Um, and uh, I get verses every morning and I look at them and I reflect on them, on how they can apply to my life. And I had one this morning that I thought I would share, um, just in terms of, um, the profound learning that I had here. So let me slide this over. All right. So what I want to do, first and foremost, I am going to start. This is Proverbs 24, verses 34. And it says in verse 30, I went by the field of the slothful, and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding. Understanding in Old Testament, the Hebrew would be the heart, understanding of your heart understands. 31, and lo, which means look, it was all overgrown with thorns and nettles, and covered the face thereof, and the stone wall thereof was broken down. So it's not in good shape. 32, then I saw, or he gazed, and considered it well, or set his heart upon it. So he started thinking about it. Then he says in 33, yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep. And then 34 says, so shall thy poverty or need come as one of the travaileth, and they or thy or you want as a armed man, which is a shield, to be shielded from that. So the travail of pain. So basically, we're talking about a neglected garden, right? Think of this now. I want you to take it from look at from our lives. If we neglect things in our lives, um, think about this. If you imagine a garden that was once thriving, had vibrant flowers, had lush greenery, uh, protective fence you might have put around to keep the rabbits out, keeping it safe. But over time, the gardener grew complacent. Okay. A day or two without watering turns into weeks. Weeds begin to sprout, flowers start to wither, right? They're not getting water. The fence, once sturdy, starts to collapse. Before long, the whole beautiful garden what is completely is unrecognized. You can't recognize it. It's been overtaken by thorns, vulnerable to intruders and barren of life. Now, I want you to think about your life. Just like a garden, if you neglect your responsibilities, whether if in work, relationships, your faith leads to disorder and decay. Small, consistent actions of care and diligence are what keeps the garden of your life flourishing. Okay. So you kind of get that illustration. The garden is our lives. So the first point I want to make here in these first two verses, 30, 31, overgrown field, a broken wall symbolizes the result of neglect in our lives. Whether, as I said before, it's your relationship or faith. We lack the attention and responsibility, and the results in disorder are vulnerability. We can look at this as we can use this as an application to ourselves is examine the fields of your life. Um, Perhaps are there areas where you're neglecting? Is it allowing the thorns to grow? Begin to address with start addressing those things with intentionality and care. You know that if you focus on something and you plan on something, the chances of you getting it done is pretty good, right? It's when you completely just keep pushing it off. Um, Slothful, being lazy. Uh, so, uh, so when I think of point number one, neglect will lead to decay. That's can be. Point number two, wisdom comes from reflection. So the speaker, he pauses, right? And he reflects and he learns, excuse me, from the neglect of observing in the field. Life offers not only through personal experience, but also through the observation of others and successes and failures. If you saw, I'm using the analogy my mom used all the time. If Joe jumped off the bridge, would you jump with him type thing? Um, so if I saw something that I didn't think was right or something that needs to be addressed, um, you know, through that observation, what I learned, right? What I learned from things. That's why we have books. That's why there's movies. There's all kinds of different things out there to help us learn to steer clear of any circumstances in life. So take time to reflect on what God is teaching you through everyday situations. You have to seek His wisdom in all circumstances. That's the best thing I can say. Um, so that's point number two. Wisdom comes from first of all, point one was neglect will lead to decay. Point two is wisdom comes from reflection. But point three, small choices shape a big outcome. I've always heard attention to detail. You take care of the details, the big stuff it will take care of itself. So when um, Solomon, who writes in Proverbs here, a little sleep, a little slumber, points to the danger of small repeated acts of idleness. So just those little things start to add up, right? So over time, these choices lead to spiritual and material poverty. So the application is avoid procrastination and complacency. Commit to daily diligence in your responsibility and spiritual growth. So your application here is don't let laziness or procrastination allow the weeds to take over your life. Tend to them, tend to those areas and that God has entrusted you with to do diligence through prayer and intention and trusting Him to bring growth and fruit. So, my challenge for you as we close ask God to help you cultivate that diligence and wisdom in your life. As you tend to your responsibilities faithfully, trust that He will bless your efforts and keep your vineyard fruitful. Folks, Chaplain Dean Alley, real quick, I just wanted to say a quick devotion this morning. Had some thoughts I'd share with you. All right, God bless.